Good evening, everybody. So I just did the same stream in German. This time it's English for those who prefer not the auto-dubbing that YouTube offers. Twitch doesn't do that, does it? And I hope you'll find this of interest. So one of the books I picked up recently over the last few months is this one here, Rivers of London, Liberty's Shadow. Now, Rivers of London, you probably know what it is. I assume so, if you came to this video. If not, it's basically, imagine the original is a police procedural set in London, England, and actually the latest book up in Scotland. And they are investigating weird stuff, to keep it polite and American rather than British. And this weird stuff is often supernatural, has to do with entities, with ghosts, monsters, cryptids, magic practitioners, that sort of thing. Basically, what this source book here in front of me does is takes the whole approach of saying, okay, let's explore what this would look like in America. There is one particular character who pops up in the other books, Kimberly somebody, and basically is taking that and saying, let's spin this tale a bit further to the US and see whether we can generate more interest that way. At the same time, however, because the character of the cases or of a magic and how the magic is envisioned in America is very different. It's a bit different from the organization, from the structure, from how controlled it was, and so on. So that there's basically not a police structure as in London, with the Metropolitan Police and Special Assessment Unit. There are lots of little islands, lots of little pockets of people who might be interested in dealing with these cases. So you may still be playing a section of the police, of state police or federal police, I should say, but you might also be playing a group of interested gentlemen or ladies who are looking at magic in general, or monster hunters, or some journalists who are trying to find weird stories, whatever it might be. So it gives you much more liberty. And Liberty Shadow, did you see what I did there? Yeah. So it basically gives you a bit more liberty to decide how you want to structure your group, what your group concept is. So in this probably 10-minute video, I'm going to show you just briefly what's in this book, what it looks like, what you get with it, because it's not just the book, there are some other reference handouts for this as well. But that's the scene setting. So let's start. One thing I can't actually go past very much. Graphic style. I mean, if you look at this, it reminds me of old Shadowrun. But okay, it's okay, I suppose. It's not how I would have imagined the style of it. And if you look at the Rivers of London comic books, for example, they have a different style to this, and I would prefer the whole rulebook to be like this. But it's an art direction decision. I appreciate that. It's not one I would have made, but then I'm not an art director. So, or if you look at this one here, I mean, yeah, I know they're messing with your head with a flipped upside down, so you see the little puddles here. They are basically raindrops falling in, so the raindrops are falling from the bottom of the page to the top. Anyway, it took a little while to look at. One thing I want to mention, because I really like what Chaosium are doing here, are these extended credits and special thanks. So they make a point of really specifying who has written what, who has contributed what to this book. And I think it's really, really good to show the contribution from the different authors, like Lynn Hardy, Helena Nash, Adam Gauntlet is mentioned here. Of course, Paul Fricker, go Paul, Ben Aaronovitch, and Derek Pounds as well. So lots of people get mentioned in here. And I just like the fact that they're taking the time and the page space, not just to thank them here and give them credit, but at the end of the book to actually have biographies of the key contributors. I think that's just a nice nod to the contribution. So, table of content. Doesn't look very exciting, but it is useful, isn't it? So let's have a look what's in this book. You basically get a short introduction to the setting, called The Land of the Free. A little bit arguable, but okay. We have cultural differences and how they inform different play styles. So it's not generally explaining what Americans think about Europe and the other way around. No, we've lots of stuff. Is available on YouTube for that. But here it basically says what are the differences and how do they impact the play style. So American gameplay, for example. If you are, I don't know, part of the New York librarians, you don't necessarily have the same hook into a case as getting criminal case phoned in, and then you are the police unit who has to investigate it. So you have to work a little bit harder on getting the players hooked into, giving them a reason why they would actually look into this. Then we have the fake identification chapter, very useful, because if you're not law enforcement, and you may want to pretend that you are, so you can get access to stuff. How does that work, basically? But you can see how it works. It then explains a little bit about American law enforcement. This is probably useful. People know a lot from American TV series, but it's still useful to see the different levels and how that works if you're navigating that space. Then we get chapter 2, the American cousins. This is much more now about organizations and groups in the US who are dealing with magic. So you can already see we've got indigenous American practitioners in there. We have the virtuous men. Don't want to spoil it too much. We have Alderman Technical Solutions, which is almost like a military contractor. New York Library Association, the Critical Incident Response Group. So that's a sort of CIA, I think a CIA attached department to deal with the weird stuff, which is interesting because we did FBI at the time. Before I actually played the X-Files, watched the X-Files, before I even knew about them, we were playing a Palladium variant called Beyond the Supernatural. And the conceit for the group, the concept, was that they were exactly that. They were a special unit of the FBI who had to investigate things that were going wrong. And we played a few sessions of that. We had a really good time. I had a really good time running it, at least. I think the players enjoyed it as well. Certainly memorable stories that we still talk about 35 years later when I meet the guys. So that's a good sign, isn't it? And we were based in Trenton, which is on the map here, New Jersey. Anyway, coming back to this, we have the hedge wizards as well, so the free and wild practitioners who don't necessarily follow the same structures. And we've got little group concepts like the cryptid kickers. Let's hunt down Bigfoot, for example. Don't want to spoil too much of it. We then have a few interesting locations. And then we have not one, but 2 cases, scenarios, whatever you want to call them. And that's this Woolly Bully. And you can see I think I counted them earlier. It's about 12 scenes, I think. And they are not very long, but the whole thing is, what did I work out? 43 pages long, I think, the scenario. Is it 43? I think so. Yeah, 43 pages. So pretty decent. Now, the style is relatively wordy. So I'm not sure. It might be 2 sessions. It might be 3 sessions. But I think it's at least that. I don't think that's a single session. Right. After that, there's what they say in their own description here, a longer case. Page-wise, 111 to 52 to 63. What is that? That's 52 pages, so slightly longer, really. This is in several acts. We've got the start, Act 1, Act 2, and with an interlude in between. So again, I reckon that might be 3 or 4 sessions, but it's purely guesswork. I have not play tested this. So, yeah, but you can see it takes you to Bozeman in Montana, for example. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, so I won't go into that. But you have basically this, the whole scenario laid out for you with case seats if you want to spin this tale further. If you want to take it somewhere else and say, okay, what else can we make from this? You get these case seats. I like that as a concept. We then have the appendices, and there are a couple of new rules, new spells, and so on. Playing an old soldier, for example. Okay. We have character sheets and these contributor biographies I mentioned earlier. Pre-gens as well. Yeah, there's 6 of them, I think. So, let me zoom out a bit. Now, the art style, as I said, I think it's variable. Some of it really works. Some of them I'm really not a fan of. This is, what's his name? I can't think of it. Famous painter who always painted on VHS or on public broadcasting services. Bob somebody. Yeah, so just to give you a feel for what this looks like. This one is probably one of my favorites. Not that I necessarily am in love with the art style, but it's okay. But I like the mood of this. Yeah, I like the sort of, they're talking about something they saw in the woods while it's watching them. Bob Ross, thank you, Folan. That's what it was, Bob Ross. Couldn't remember that at the moment. So you get lots of information. Let me zoom a little bit further into one of the cases. Hopefully this doesn't make you seasick. Oh yeah, you get slightly different character generation rules. So you get basically different concepts for the characters just to accommodate that it's a different playstyle. I quite like that as well. So this is now the magic in America. Let me zoom into one of the cases. Still here. And the concepts, what was it? 60. These are the NPC portraits. They come in a separate file as well, so slightly bigger. If you want to present them for your VTT, print them off, put them on the table, whatever, clip them to your GM screen if you do that sort of stuff. But you can already see that there's different art styles here. So you see this one here, which is relatively artsy, but it's all in keeping with each other. And what you'll see in a bit for the second case, they look very different. This picture I like the top of. Yeah. Actually, overall, I like this one. That's a nice picture. That's how I would imagine the whole book to be. Anyway, we now have the first case file. You can see that's the background. I want to go into one of the scenes here. You get an overview of the scene, how it hangs together. At the beginning, the investigation phase is very, very much, you can do them in any order, and then it narrows down and becomes a rail track almost. Look at these character portraits now. You can see that's a very different style. Yeah? I don't know, for me it's a sort of 1950s, 1960s sort of thing, but okay. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. If you know Rivers of London, you know that there are talking foxes working with Abigail. They also play a big role in the latest book, Stone and Sky, which is set up in Scotland. I think, from what I've read, basically an equivalent here are the raccoons. Yeah? The name of the scenarios like the song. Is there a song, Woolly Bully? Is that why it sounded familiar? Maybe. So you get handouts, you get next steps. So yeah, basically this is now an example. So you basically get investigate this, and then it tells you if you roll this, this happens. If you roll that, this happens. If you roll that, that happens. The next steps could be this, or it could be that, or it could be that. So it's relatively wordy, but it walks you through it. It's just when you first open this case file, read it through so you know how it's structured, because finding information quickly in that moment, if you don't know how it's structured, is going to be tricky. So it's certainly something, when I ran the other case files on it, I think I've run it 4 times, 5 times, it was something like, oh yeah, understand how it's structured, and then you can run it from the book reasonably well. But don't just expect to pick up the book and run it. Yeah, I probably know that song, Folan. I probably know it. So, anyway, I didn't want to spoil too much here, but you can see it seems to have something to do with these bovines. Let me zoom through a bit more. It's got all the stories here, and at the end, yeah, I probably can show you this differently on the map. At the end, you've got useful things like which state is where, and what are the state capitals or the most important cities, because some of them have both. Alaska, Juneau, for example. And where is it? Trenton, that's where my group was based. But I quite like New York. They have Albany on there. Apparently nobody knows about Albany, but there seems to be Nessie there. Yeah, Montpellier, Augusta. Now, the only time that I've been to the States, I've been to New York. I've been to Washington for work quite often, which was fly into Washington, go to the hotel, spend a few days there in the office, and then go back. Basically, I just took one walk in Washington, and all the time I was there. It was a Sunday morning in February, and it was nice and snow-covered, but there was nobody on the streets. It was like one of those disaster movies, and certainly nobody walking around. It was really weird. And I've been to Florida, but that's it. So I've been on Boston, of course. Yeah, I've gone from New York to Boston. So New York, Boston, Washington, and then Florida. That's it. I need to go a bit further west, I think. Funnily enough, the state capital of Massachusetts. Sometimes they've got both in it. Where's Massachusetts? I can't pronounce it. I can't spot it either. Where's Massa? It's further east, isn't it? Oh, yeah, Boston. Yeah, okay, of course it's Boston. I was there. What's the state capital then? It's not... You tell me. Springfield? All right, so they maybe didn't have enough space for both in the air, because Albany they have in it, and I thought, yeah, okay, credit to them, they have done that. Anyway, the weird and wonderful US of A. So they've got some of the states and then some of the mystical cryptids that might turn up there as well. So it's a few ideas. Now, they are not full stories, but you can, of course, use this as seeds and as inspiration to do some further research. It's just a hook. It's just something like the Walgreen, not quite the Walgreen Lake Monster. You could make a whole case file out of that, I'm sure. Right, anyway, what else do you get? You get player handouts and maps. So they are in a separate PDF, which I think I really like again. Yeah, makes it easy to just pull them out and hand them out. Boston. All right. Now, Boston I've been to. And I really liked it, actually. Boston was really cool. One thing I do like here is that in the handouts, they have one which is sort of handwritten, but I know a lot of players, especially younger players, who have real trouble reading handwritten scripts. So I quite like that they have two versions of the same, and the second one is printed. Makes it a bit clearer, especially if you're working on VTTs as well. And people might have a small screen. So you can see, again, the maps are very different styles as well. Now I don't want to spoil too much. But you have them in a separate PDF, and that's something that they started doing certainly on Rivers of London. I really like that one. You have the NPCs portraits. We looked at them already. I don't have to do that again. But you basically have them in a separate file. So if you want to do screen cutting, or good tip, by the way, if you know token tool, you can take the whole token tool, can drop the PDF into it, and will basically offer you to strip all the assets or like the pictures out of it, and then just save them to a location automatically. So you can just grab assets like this, which I quite like. You have the whole thing in plain text handouts and diagrams pack. You get the same for the GM. Yeah, you get the maps, downtown Bozeman, Montana. You get these relationship diagrams, which I really like. I used to do these for my English or German lessons when we were studying a novel. So lots of material with it. And you get this GM reference. And again, that's, I think, a really good idea. What this is essentially is profiles for NPCs and creatures. So any NPCs that turn up in the scenario, you don't have to then flick through the big book and try and find the stats for these. But instead, what you can do is you can just use these few sheets here, and you've got them listed out. Yeah, the stat blocks. And makes it a lot easier to navigate, I think. So that's what it is. That's what you get. You can get this on Chaosium's own store. Usually, if you order the hard copy there, you do get the PDF with it. If you just are interested in the PDF, you can, of course, grab it off Drive-Thru. I will probably put an affiliate link under this video. If you use that to shop at Drive-Thru, I do actually get a little bit of kickback. I think it's 2 or 3% of whatever you spend. And it doesn't cost you a penny more. And that actually, over the last year, has produced a little bit more money than both the Twitch advertising and the YouTube advertising together, which is about £4 a month each. And that creates credit on the Drive-Thru, which I then can use to buy more stuff and talk about more stuff. So it's quite nice. You can sort of feed the machine there. Right. Any questions? Any questions from you guys? Fowlin has been very, very vocal today, which is lovely to see. And it's good to see you again as well. But any questions? Shoot, or leave a comment if you watch this on YouTube later on. Most folks call you twin. Are you actually a twin or not? Yeah, I had a bit of a break. There was lots going on, and yeah, let's put it that way. A couple of the projects I was streaming didn't really come off, and that was a little bit of a demotivator for me for a while. Let's put it that way. But I had lots of stuff to work at work, and had to mark lots of essays for the exam board and stuff. Okay, So, any questions with this? Otherwise, I'm going to say farewell, good night. And when is the next time I'm streaming? I think in English, I haven't got anything set up. But in German, we will have something soon. Let me have a look. Lion and the Witch and the... No, that's not a game. That's going to the theater. Oh, yes, Forbidden Lands on Friday the 1st of August. That's the next one. That's in German. You can watch it with also dubbed subtitles, can be quite fun. But there will be something in English, I'm sure, once we get back into it. The next project I've got for German, actually, is Coriolis, The Great Dark. I want to do something with that. And I got a notification from the mail today that the parcel with the books and the box, hopefully, should be arriving very soon. The next thing in English, I'm not quite sure. I could imagine myself playing Expanse, the Expanse role-playing game. Quite fancy that. Another thing I do quite fancy is, I just grab one of the books here. Hard to see maybe. Dreams and Machines. Because I have run this a few times around the table, really enjoyed it. And I've got this campaign pack here, Echoes of an Ancient Enemy, which is tempting me. So I might run that in English. Not quite sure. But probably not fantasy for the next thing. We have, however, got somebody, one of my other players, Julian, who said that he might run Conan 2D20 for us, because we had a campaign of about 18 episodes. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, but I didn't enjoy running the 2D20, and that's why we went to the Dragonbane stuff. And he says he would like to give the Conan 2D20 another go, so maybe we're going to do that. Yeah, The Expanse, if you don't know that one yet, I highly recommend that you read the books if you like sci-fi, because I thought that was really clever sci-fi and really well written. I really enjoyed it. And I'm actually rewatching the first, actually we're in the second season now with my family as well, if I can get them together. Yeah, Dragonbane, there is new stuff coming up, but I haven't really talked about it yet. I've backed it. What's coming up for Dragonbane? There's a new magic book with magic schools, and there's this city adventure. I can't remember what it's called now. What is it called? Basically, city description with lots of with a campaign within it. I do enjoy Dragonbane, but as I said, our campaign did not come off as I had hoped. Kickstarter, what is it? Langmar, reminds you of Langmar. Yeah, that was the vibe I was getting as well. Arcant, the Book of Magic. Arcant and the Book of Magic. So they have the Book of Magic with new schools, new spells, and so on, and then they've got the scenario of the city Arcant, which sounds really, really interesting. That was funded on the 26th of June, so it'll be a little while, I guess, before we see a lot about that one. But we'll see how it works out. The other thing I've recently backed is from Kids in the Attic, who made Sleepy Hollow. They made Folk Americana. You may have seen the stream on that one. That's still funding, actually, until the 8th of August. So that's quite cool. And what else have I got? Oh, going a little bit off topic here. What are the other projects? Pledges and survey. Court of the Sea, the Everhard Expedition. I've got Trade of Cthulhu 2nd edition, waiting for that. The Expanse role-playing game Transport Union edition. So what happened after they go through the gates, basically. So it's a different vibe again. It's more like the Great Dark, so exploration rather than being in a settled system. Then there should be Old Gods of Appalachia Deeper still coming through. And, oh gosh, there's so much stuff still coming, even though I really cut down. Mum's Chums. That's just released a new PDF. That's basically a role-playing game about the meeting at the kindergarten or at the nursery or at the school gates, the parents basically using that as a microcosm of problems, social problems, and dealing with them. That seemed really cool as well. And there's, of course, Vase and Mythic Carpathia and the city of nightmares, of my nightmares. That's also coming. Anyway, I think that's all stuff we could be talking about. If anybody says, oh, that's really of interest, let me know. That gives me an idea maybe for the next stream. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much, Twin, for keeping me company. Really enjoyed it. And now I'm going to have to do the dishes. So I'll see you all soon. Yeah, you do that. Leave a comment on your YouTubes, and then I can pick it up from there. Have a good one. Bye now.